Howdy folks, I'm Brian and here's some Reddit. Our first story is titled, Am I the Jerk for Keeping a Bag for Myself that my daughter wanted to buy instead of giving it to her as a birthday present? My 17-year-old daughter turns 18 at the end of this month. She doesn't expect anything for her birthday. She's a modest girl for her age and has never asked anyone for anything. We were out shopping at a thrift store and she found a purse she wanted. It was $9. I told her to put it in the cart. She didn't get anything else from the store because there wasn't much that she was interested in. I set the bag down at the checkout with the rest of the items I was buying, since it was just one item that she had found, so I wanted to save some time and group it with my things instead of doing a separate checkout. We arrived back home. I got a good look at the purse and I really like the bag. I know that she found it herself, and I already have so many purses, but I searched for it online after she found it, and I can't find it anywhere. So this could be the only time I find it. My daughter was looking at the bag, and I told her how much I loved the bag, and that it was only $9. She was talking about how much she liked it as well. I felt bad that she bought me a coffee mug that I liked at the shop, so I told her that she could use the bag once in a while if she wants, or if she really liked it, then she could buy it from me for $9. Apparently, her and her dad had a secret conversation over texting. Her father and I are separated. We have been for several years. He sent me a rude message about how he doesn't pay me hundreds of dollars of child support for me not to get my daughter something, especially since her birthday is coming up. I responded and told him it's not as if he's given her anything for her birthday or Christmas, and he's being an awful hypocrite about parenting. He then argued that I don't let him see our daughter. I offered my daughter that she could borrow the bag or buy it from me for $9. She had two choices. I bought the bag, so it's ultimately mine. She can buy her own gift if she wants it. She's an adult at 18. Adults buy themselves gifts if they really want them for their birthdays. Alright, OP, I'm going to say that you're probably a jerk in this situation. And I mean, this one isn't as cut and dry as I'd like it to be, but by telling your daughter to set it down on the, checkout, and that it seemed like you were, in all likelihood, buying it for her as a gift. Maybe that was an improper perception that you were, putting forth. Yeah, I mean, your daughter could have bought it from you. And if that's really the kind of relationship that you want to have with your daughter, especially since it's her birthday is coming up, then, I mean, I guess that's kind of your prerogative. And I think that the nice thing to do would be to give her the bag. I mean, it's just $9. So I guess the way I read the situation is it seemed like your daughter's hopes were gotten up when you offered to buy the bag. And maybe it seemed like you were trying to, save some time when you were purchasing it because you were trying to, group everything together. But I'm pretty sure the perception that your daughter had was that you were buying it potentially as a gift. And then when you're like, oh no, I actually just got this for myself, I mean, that's, I think, maybe where the miscommunication is coming from. And I think if you weren't at the time willing to give the bag to your daughter, that you should have just let her buy it herself. Because it sounds like she was ready to purchase it for herself, but then you kind of flipped it and were like, oh, I can buy this. So I don't know. That's just the perception I get. Maybe I'm mistaken here. If this is something that really means a lot to your daughter and she was going to buy it, but then you kind of, took that option away from her, I think the nice thing here would be to just give it to her as a birthday present. You're the jerk. Wow. The fact that she never asks anything from anyone, and the one time she actually does ask you for something, you want to keep it for yourself. What's wrong with you? Agreed. Your daughter, who never asks for anything, whose birthday is coming up, wanted a $9 purse, but you decided to keep it for yourself. Maybe she never asks you for anything because she knows her mother is selfish and will just hoard it for herself. Get ready to never have her in your life when she turns 18. You're the jerk. I mean, I think, again, this situation is really hard to judge. I think that those might be a little bit, short-sighted. She's been living with her mom for, 17 years, it sounds like. The dad's not necessarily in the picture for one reason or the other. We don't really know their family dynamics. But again, the purse situation doesn't necessarily paint the mother, doesn't paint OP in a terribly good light. So I agree with the never asks for anything from anyone, but I don't know if, the final statement here is true. You're the jerk. The way you said it while you were in the store really made it sound like you were just going to get it for her. It sounds like you changed your mind once you looked at the bag and decided that you liked it. Are you going to give her anything for her birthday? Honestly, you don't sound like a mom here. You sound like an older sister trying to pull rank on the younger. Just give her the bag if it was no big deal that it was just $9. Yeah, I think that probably is a good summary of what's going on here. It really does feel more like a jealousy type thing where she realized that she really liked the bag. And, another thing that we can consider here is that maybe this is a common dynamic when the daughter sees something that she likes and wants something, that the mother kind of jumps in and also takes interest in it, because sometimes there are people who will do that, and this sounds like we might be encroaching on that kind of territory here. So yeah. All right, our next story is titled, Am I the jerk for lashing out at my husband for making a scene at the doctor's office? I'm a 27-year-old female and my husband is a 32-year-old male, and we've been married for 3 years. He's an accountant and I'm a hairstylist. He's always worrying too much about money, making tens of plans and changing them without letting me know, setting a budget after a budget after a budget. He freaks out over small debts. 2020 was a real struggle for us. He started saving money and keeping it home and calling it for emergencies, although we already have an emergency fund. I gotta say, his behavior stresses me out, and I find myself telling him to stop worrying so much about money and to put the calculator down, because he literally calculates out how much we spend a day. It's crazy. I'm currently pregnant. This was planned, and my husband is happy, and he started setting budgets and making plans about how much money to save for the baby. I'm in my 13th week, and yesterday we had an appointment with the doctor to do an ultrasound. The scan revealed that we were actually expecting twins. Note that this isn't my first pregnancy. I had a baby die 7 months from my previous marriage. When the doctor told us that we were expecting a twin, my husband paused. He just stared and then asked how it could be, and then told the doctor to check again. Then again. At that point in time, the doctor and I were getting annoyed. I was embarrassed, and he threw a fit saying he didn't make plans for a twin and he's only capable of affording one baby. I was so embarrassed when he told the doctor this. The doctor was polite, and she said that twins mean double joy, double blessing, and my husband laughed at it sarcastically and told the doctor that it was easy for her to say when some people who can afford more than one child, and made some comments about her salary and how much she's paid. I felt horrible and kept apologizing for his behavior. We got home, and he argued that the doctor didn't seem professional and demanded that we see another doctor, and that's when I lost it. I lashed out at him and told him that he was making a scene at the doctor's office and embarrassed me like that, and that wasn't okay. He defended himself by saying that he was just expressing his frustration, that he didn't make plans for a twin and can only afford to provide for one baby. I called him ridiculous for how he was saying that, and he got mad and said I shouldn't try to police his emotions and control his reactions, and then he left the house. He sent me a text later saying that I hurt his feelings and that his opinions matter too. He's expecting me to apologize, but I don't want to after him causing a scene and more stress than what I'm already dealing with. Now it's silence. Was I the jerk? Should I have let him speak like that? He made it seem like he was disappointed. He is in some way, and it ruined my joy, to be honest. As someone who has already experienced the loss of a baby, this hurt me a lot. Note, I suggested therapy, and he got offended about how I could think he needs therapy for thinking about our future. All right, OP. I don't think that you're a jerk here, and I think your husband is probably under a lot of stress, and this isn't to excuse his behavior. I think that he was acting like a jerk here. I don't think you owe him an apology either. But his behavior here is really odd, and to make a budget and on top of a budget on top of a budget seems a little bit excessive. I think that he may be feeling very insecure and really anxious about this pregnancy, and then he wanted to have everything planned out, and certain types of people have to kind of have control over every situation and every circumstance that comes up. And when they find out that they don't actually have that kind of control, it stresses them out a lot. So I do think that therapy probably would be beneficial for your husband. I think that he has a lot of stress and worry that he needs to kind of work out. And I think he has a lot of things that he needs to come to terms with, like the ability to control the outcomes of things. Your husband wants to see another doctor not because she was unprofessional, in my opinion, but because he's hoping that she was wrong about you having twins. He is in such denial that he is basically trying to use every excuse to try to not believe that you're having twins. And 2020 was rough for a lot of people and financially rough for a lot of people. And he might be finding that when he writes a budget that you folks are burning through it faster than he was expecting, and that the budget just isn't working out. He might be facing a great deal of stress at work and might feel like his job is insecure. And maybe he feels like once you go on maternity leave, or if you don't go back to your job, that's going to make finances even more difficult. So I think that he's probably suffering from a lot of stress here. It certainly doesn't excuse his behavior. I think that he acted completely inappropriately here. So I do think that you folks need to sit down and seriously talk about the budget as a couple and really stick to a budget and really adhere to it, especially if money is stressing him out so much. Good luck and congratulations on the baby. Not the jerk, but he needs help. This level of anxiety over budgeting is not normal. He should get counseling and find out what the real issue is. If he's the primary breadwinner and they're struggling financially in 2020, it may not be irrational. It's possible he's carrying that mental load largely on his own. I'm not making excuses for his behavior, but I don't think we can assume that the budgeting is a sign of poor mental health when it could simply be a sign of financial difficulty. All right, our last letter is titled, Will I Be a Jerk for Naming My Son Brian? No. Of course, I'm not biased at all. My father, who I was extremely close with, passed away nearly 10 years ago. He single-handedly raised me and was literally my best friend until the day he passed. Even though 10 years have passed, I still miss him every day. After a few months of dating my boyfriend, who we'll call Kyle, we had our first discussion about kids, and I told him that it would be a deal breaker for me to not name my son after my father. I didn't want the middle name, I wanted it to be his first name. Kyle said that it was a beautiful sentiment and that he was fully supported it. I told him that if we ever had kids, he had his free reign over the name of the girl and he could name her whatever he wanted. Well, now I'm pregnant with my second child with Kyle. Our first one was a girl, and much to our first discussion, I let him name her whatever he wanted. In his family, none of them have middle names, so we decided to stick with that one for our girl. However, we just found out I was expecting a boy. He was super excited until I started ordering stuff with the baby's name on it. He asked me why I was ordering stuff with the name Brian, and I said it was obviously because that's what we're naming him. We had the conversation over 100 times at this point, so it's not like it was just a random forget. He said that he thought I was just kidding, and that we shouldn't name our son Brian. I said that he got to name our daughter, and I never once complained about her name, so I don't know what he's going on about. He said that he's always wanted a Kyle Jr. or Kyle II or something like that, and I said that's great, but you promised that we could name our son after my father. Well, He called his family, and they're all calling and complaining about the name. They don't care about my father's name, and they want something that will match my daughter's, more modern. Or Junior, they said that Brian's a really bad name for kids today, and he'll be bullied. I disagree, and even if he was still named after the most special person I've ever met. I've no family left on my side. The last person was my father. No grandparents, no parents, no siblings, no cousins, etc. All I have to carry on my family is his name. I'm willing to budge on the spelling if I have to, but they just want the name to be completely gone. A middle name is not even in the discussion anymore because they don't want to break the tradition on their side. I understand that this is not a popular name. However, I feel like this is something special and so precious to me and that I will not budge. Am I the jerk? Edit, just to clear some things up. My boyfriend's name is not Kyle. It's just the name I gave him for the sake of this post. However, his name does start with a K. So I promise we're not going to name our kid Kyle Jr. LOL. Also, I know Brian isn't an outdated name, but to them it's outdated. They consider it to be an ugly late 90s, early 2000s name. And they said by the time that he's in high school, he'll be getting hell for it. Alright, OP. No, you're not the jerk, period, in this situation. And you already had this conversation with your husband, and you already told him what you were going to name your son, and he agreed to it. So no, you're not the jerk. Your family trying to convince you or persuade you otherwise are completely out of line. This is something that you've been set on from the day you met him. You didn't just pull this out of thin air and are suddenly like at the last minute, oh, I want to name my son Brian. No, this isn't fair to you. This was a deal breaker for you. And, I would say that if it's still a deal breaker for you, then to tell him so. Say that you're going to name him Brian, and that's that. And that if he doesn't agree with it, then that's fine, but he's going to have to find another relationship. So, yeah, I don't think that you're a jerk. But I would be careful around like the birth certificate stuff and make sure that he doesn't go and try behind your back to like change your baby's name or any number of things like that. So I would just be very careful, especially during the birthing process, and make sure that you have all your bases covered there. Not the jerk. Your husband's family shouldn't have any input on your child's name unless you ask for it. It's between you and your husband. Given that he agreed to this during your relationship and you respected his wish with naming your daughter, he is really out of line. More so because he tattled to his family about a disagreement that should have stayed between the two of you. Name your son after your father exactly the way you wanted to. Your husband is a huge jerk. Also, Brian is a perfect name. How does anyone make fun of that? Yeah, exactly. How does anyone make fun of that name? Also, I think Brian is a perfect name. Thank you. Me too. Brian's a great name. Also, Brian is a perfect name. How does anyone make fun of that? When a bully makes Brian cry, he's going to call him Cryin' Brian. That's probably not untrue. Hey everybody, look, it's Brian. Ha ha ha. What an outdated late 90s, early 2000s name. He's nothing like us modern kids with our modern names. Alright folks, that's all the time we have for today. I hope you enjoyed today's video. If you did, consider giving me a like. If you didn't, consider giving me a dislike. Also, consider saying something in the comments below. I always like to hear from people, so thanks. There's a lot of comments I haven't gotten to yet today. It's actually pretty late right now, and I'm just recording, so hopefully I'll be able to get to those. I'm not ignoring anyone. I do apologize. So thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you all tomorrow.